بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I pray that you are well, inshallah. It's so nice to see you again. And there's just something that happened yesterday. As soon as the lecture finished, they gave me a very difficult news. They said I still had 9 minutes left. It has never happened before. I finished early. I don't know what happened yesterday. I made a mistake in my calculation, which wasn't really a difficult calculation. All I needed to do was say it's 910 plus 30 should be 940. For some reason, 9:30 I finished. I really apologize, mostly to myself. You must have been happy, less of me. So I just thought maybe we can start by acknowledging that, because it was a very difficult reality for me to accept. And now we'll jump back into our discussion about Dua Abu Hamza Thumali of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. صل على محمد وعجل فرجهم. So yesterday we were talking about this idea that the best way we can improve ourselves, or at least a very good way we can improve ourselves, is to shadow someone who has the things we want. Well, a very shallow example of it would be if we want to, for example, I don't know, be better at work, some qualities we want, we can be next to a friend of us or a mentor who has those qualities, and just by being next to them, observing the way they do things, looking at the way they approach people, we can slowly pick up their patterns and become a better person. I remember a funny example today as I was actually thinking about this. When I was younger, I remember I would try to do this a lot with my father. And I would try to see how does he do things so that I could learn. One of the interesting things I suddenly remembered today was, Sheikh Father would receive a lot of books. Like someone would come and say, you know what, I've written these books, what do you think about it? And he had like 2 minutes to look at the book and give a view about it. And for me, it was very interesting. Like, what do you do if you have 2 minutes with the book? How do you show that, yes, I did a very good analysis of it, and this is my opinion? Because, like, what can you really do, right? Think about it. Someone gives you a book, and they're like, and you have to pretend like, okay. And so I was looking at him. If he has 2 minutes, what does he look at a book? I was like, he immediately goes to table of content, and then he takes, for example, one of the topics which interests him, opens first page, reads that, and then he, for example, gives his opinion. Oh, interesting, I'll read it later, he would say. And then later on, I used this technique a lot. Someone would come and say, have you read this book? Have you seen it? I would pick it up, look at the table of contents, and then, why am I sharing this? I'm saying even something as simple as, if you have 2 minutes with the book, how would you assess it? It's very good to look at someone who's an expert and learn from them. Otherwise, I remember there are some people, you give them a book, they're like, they look this very good. But what did you check? So even something as simple as that, when you have a role model, you can really learn a lot from them. Now, inshallah, from tonight, we're trying to do this with Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. We're going to see one of the first things, for example, tonight we're going to see with Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is, what does he ask from God? Right? That's such an important thing. It's the month of, for example, Ramadan. God says, ask me and I will give. And let's see, what would someone like Imam Sajjad alayhi salam ask from God? If it's up to me, I'll ask for something really simple. So now we're going to read the first line, inshallah, of Dua Abu Hamza and think about it and try to really put ourselves into the shoes of Imam Sajjad and see, why did he ask this from God? Why did he start with this line? So if you allow me, after a salawat, I'll recite the first line for you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم الهی لا تؤدبنی بعقوبتک. Oh Allah, do not educate me through your punishment. Okay? الهی لا تؤدبنی بعقوبتک. God, do not educate me, do not teach me through عقوبة, through punishment. Allah will open up each of these words to see what they mean. It's very important for us to really remember who said this line. You know, we're dealing with Zainul Abidin, right? The ornament of the worshippers. So someone like that, when he says something, it's very good for us to know why he said it so that we can create the same desire inside us so that we can ask it from God. So I thought maybe tonight we can start opening this sentence up a little bit. This sentence, by the way, is almost the foundation of the whole dua. If we understand this one sentence, then you realize the lifestyle Ahl Bayt wanted us to have is very beautiful and quite different to what we may have known. It's much faster, much quicker, much more powerful. We'll talk about it. Before we get to what is Imam asking God through this phrase, let's open it up a little bit. There's a few phrases here. One is tu'addibni, ta'adib. Right? Ta'adib is when you want to teach someone something, when they learn a lesson, when you want to help them, educate them. That's ta'adib. And then the word at the end, bi'uqubatik. Uquba means basically, some people have translated as punishment. The reason for that is that uquba is the consequence of your action. Right? And if, for example, you do something bad, the consequence is going to be bad, so it's almost considered a punishment. Right? If I drive, for example, without paying attention to the rules and I'm going very fast, I may have an accident, and that accident is the uquba, the end result of my bad driving. Right? So in some ways, it's considered my punishment. If I was more careful, it wouldn't have happened to me. Just in this one line, Imam Sajjad, by the way, is teaching so much theology to us, which will open it up a little bit. First of all, Imam says, uquba is for ta'adib. There is no such a thing as punishment for revenge with God. So even if at any point, masalan, I've done something wrong and I face the result of it, or I experience a punishment for that, Imam Sajjad says it's not like God is holding a grudge against you and then wants to hurt you. Imam says no, punishment with God has a reason. And what is that reason? To help us learn a lesson. Right? In the same way that, for example, maybe at home, if you see that your child has done something that's really hurting them. They've picked up a habit which is really harmful to them. You may, for example, tell them, you know what, let me take your PlayStation away for 2 days. Why? Do I hate you? No. I just don't want you to hurt yourself. It's for you to learn a lesson. Right? So this is very important for you to remember. Imam Sajjad, from the beginning of Dua Abu Hamza Thumali, says God never does anything out of revenge or because he's holding a grudge against you. No. Even if there's a consequence to your action, which there is for you to learn a lesson and you grow. Although I don't have time to open up, in the book I've opened this up, by the way. For those who want a little bit more detailed discussions of the dua, they can refer to the book. But in there I've opened up even that from a Quranic point of view, it's really ourselves who create that problem. Masalan, God says in the Quran what? فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. It says يَرَهُ. You will see that same bad action. And it's God says, baby, when you do something wrong, The punishment of it is that you see the result of that thing which you did. That is the punishment itself. Let me give you an example so it becomes a little bit clear. Let's say as a father, I'm not treating my children well. I never listen to them. Whenever I come home, I'm angry. Now I'm fasting too. As soon as I come home after a day of work and fasting, no one should play, no one should talk. This is bad behavior. Poor children, it's not their fault I'm fasting. No, dad is hungry. Mate, it's not our fault we're fasting too. But if I treat my children like that, I come home, they're scared of me, this is a bad action. Quran says you will see the result of this. What is it? Does God send angels to my children say, hate daddy? No. There's no need for any angels. You yourself, with that behavior, you will make your children hate you. Even if they're around you, they're scared of you. They don't respect you. They don't love you. Right? So you see that slowly, if I as a father am treating my children poorly, slowly, I see that they're becoming cold to me. So Imam Sajjad says, look, this world is designed in such a way that is a mirror of you. Whatever you do, you get to see it in the mirror of your life. You treat your children, for example, poorly. How does the world show you that? Your children will slowly get colder and colder, and the discussions at the dinner table becomes more formal. They don't share their personal stories with you. In a few years, you don't even know who they are. Halam, does the world do this because God hates you? Nah. Imam Sajjad says it's for ta'deeb. The world shows you who you are so that you see yourself and you change. For example, I see that slowly, my children are not excited when I come home. They don't share what they're going through with me. This is a mirror. Imam Sajjad says you have two ways of dealing with this information. Either you ignore that this is a message from God, and you think, these children are so rude. This generation, they don't respect their fathers. Or Imam Sajjad says, you try to see, what am I missing in this family? 2 years ago, this child was so excited, he wouldn't let me go to work in the morning. Now Hassan doesn't want to be with me. Maybe it's something I've done. Let me go and talk to him. Imam Sajjad says, if you look at it this way, what would happen? That becomes a feedback that helps you improve yourself. If you improve yourself, who benefits? You benefit. Of course, your family will benefit too, but you as well, you'll benefit because now you become a father whose children love him. It's not just respect, but it's also love. It's not just fear. As Imam Sajjad says, see, God has designed the world in such a way that you get to see the result of your actions. Why? Because God hates you? No. So that you can learn. It's ta'deeb. Does that make sense? We can really open this up, but this is a discussion for another series. Please recite the salawat. It says here that I have 1,621 minutes, 20 minutes, 19 minutes. That's the seconds. 16 minutes and 15 seconds left. And this was just maybe one of the 10 points I wanted to mention. So fasten the seatbelts. We're going to go a little bit faster. Now, all of these things we said still is not the main point of this phrase. Ilahi la tu'addibni bi'uqubatik. Imam Sajjad says, God, I don't want to learn through this way. La tu'addibni bi'uqubatik. Imam Sajjad says, this way of going through life, seeing the consequences of your actions and learning, I don't want it. I want another way. This is for animals too. Do you know a lot of, by the way, psychological advice, masalan, we give to people for relationships? So, it actually comes from animal studies, right? Masalan, what is one of the very famous, and there's nothing wrong with it, it works on most of us. All of us, I'm not shaming us, so wait, we'll get there. I'm trying to show you what heights Imam Sajjad wants us to get. And you see, Hassan, we haven't even started the ABCs of this tradition. You know, مثلا one of the advices they give to couples, this is like one of the ones that really works so enough, is if you want مثلا something, for example, your partner, your husband or your wife to do for you, don't shame them when they don't do it. Wait for some time, مثلا wait 1 week or 2 months even, it's worth it. Wait for them to do that thing which you like and then really praise them that day, right? As they say, wait for the action you want, for example, your partner to do. Hello, with children as well, it's the same. And the foundation of most of education is this. Wait for them to do the desired behavior and then reward it. Oh my God, thank you so much for doing that to me. Your partner is like, oh, that was so sweet, let me do more of that. Oh, this was like the way we learned this was that we saw, okay, you can get an animal to do what you want by giving it food. By rewarding it, we can get it to do whatever we want. And the foundation of Alon education is almost like this in many places. It's like when someone does something you don't like, punish them. When they do something you like, reward them. And this way they'll do what you want. Imam Sajjad says, I don't want to grow like this. I'm an insan. When God created insan, said, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنَ الْخَالِقِينَ. I didn't come here to learn this way, okay? There's another way. Before we get to speak about what is this other way that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam speaks about, let's talk a little bit about to see how much this way is encapsulating almost all aspects of our life. Yani we are deep into this way of learning through uquba. So one of the things I've noticed a lot, alhamdulillah, one of the best things about being a person who gives talks is I get to meet a lot of people. It's the most precious thing for me to hear real life stories, right? Because that's where the best thing is. The life of an insan is the most precious thing in this world. One of the things I've seen that happens to a lot of us, almost all of us, is this, that we learn lessons very hard. A few months ago, I was with a father, lovely father, very nice person. By now, he had learned his lesson. But he said, I was one of those fathers who was raised in a family in which don't show too much love to your children. They'll get rude, they'll increase their audacity. He said, I was like this for many years. I was like, they should keep boundaries of fulan. He said, at some point, my daughters left me. My wife divorced me, that's one thing. My daughter said, we don't want to be with you, daddy. We don't like you. So daughters leave him as well, go and live with their mom, and they say, we don't even want to see dad. Initially, he still was like, oh, it must be the mom, right? Making them hate me. But slowly, he realized that, no, it seems like I'm not really communicating with them. I've kept pushing them away. And so he said, by the time I met this beautiful brother, he was telling, and he had tears in his eyes. He said, now I'm 50 years old, and I want to now go and really be the father for my children that I wasn't in those years. Now, what happened? 20 years of creating a difficult life for my family and not realizing, going ahead with that, I get a divorce, children go away from me. All of this effort for me after 20 years to learn a lesson that maybe I should soften up a little bit. 20 years it took me to learn a lesson that I should maybe be more there for my children. It's not late, alhamdulillah. Whenever we learn, it's good. So now he's really trying to build those bridges with his daughters and, build connections. But I'm saying if you look at many of us, you see our life is full of examples like that. Things that we didn't learn for such a long time till life was kind of like, Habibi, how can I show you that maybe there's time for some change? As I said, this is with everything. Masalan, with our health. I don't take care of my health till. Doctor says, masalan, cholesterol is too high, my friend. You have, masalan, 6 months or a heart attack is about to happen. Oh. Pas bebin, the way many of us were living, and I'm not judging us, this is the way we were taught. We live our life, and then something terrible happens, like, I must have been making a mistake for 5 years. It's 5 years of not, for example, being active. That's 10 years of not showing love to my family. Or masalan, I don't know, there are so many examples. I don't want to, the concern is the time. Otherwise, I would give you, see how many examples, almost in every aspect of our life, it's like this. The person says, oh, my whole life, I was looking for money, which is, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. Money is good, enjoy. But if you don't look at the feedback of the universe that may be at the expense of this money, your family, you're pushing them away. Or your father, when was the last time you saw your father? You reach 60 years old or 50 years old. I've seen this, I've met people, by the way. He spent all his life on money. He thought that's what makes him happy. Now he's got the millions in the bank. And now he's like, hope, what do I do now? I have it. I've got the millions in the bank. I've 10x'd them. It's really good amount. But now I don't have anyone to enjoy it with. And all these days of stress about which trade is going on. I've even messed up my health. How do I handle that? Hala, what happens again? Ta'adib bil-uquba. He saw the consequence of all those years of an unbalanced life. Not that money is bad, but everything needs to be in place. Your family, your health, your relationship with God, everything in balance. If we don't keep that balance, at some point we will see the consequence of that. Now, even by the way, in brackets between us, this is something because, this is a very private setting, or it's not live, or I'll share it. If it was a public session, I would not share this. Even when you look about it, most of the way we even teach values to our children, we're not really teaching them values. We are giving them the animal education, which is, masalan, do this, daddy will love you. Imam Sajjad says, when you do this, if you study, I will love you, or if you pray, I will love you. Your child hasn't really learned to enjoy prayer. He's doing it because you said, I will love you if you do this. So he's doing it for the love. That's like, for example, getting a parrot to say what you want by saying, I'll give you seeds. You can get a parrot to say anything you want by giving them sunflower seeds. I've seen that myself. It can say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It can say anything. My grandfather had a parrot, mashallah, it could say anything. Why? Because when it says something they give him more sunflower seeds. Imam Sajjad says, oh, bibin, this is level 1. Let's go level 2. Let's get to a level of insani growth. I don't want to go into this life, hit a wall, make a mistake, and then learn, oh my God, 10 years of mistake, and then change my path. Or just do things without understanding because someone told me if you do it, we'll love you, or masalan this or that. No. Imam Sajjad says, Ilahi, follow with me, let's recite, Ilahi, la tu'addibni bi'uqubatik. I don't want to learn through the consequences of my actions. I want to learn there's another way. Hala, what is the other way? In the other way, God instills that correct, beautiful way of life to your heart. Allah will talk about the ways of achieving that. And then as a result of that, you live beautifully. You don't need to go 10 years and move away from your family to learn that you have to be nice to them. No, from the beginning, God does something to your heart that you're such a person for your family, everyone will enjoy your company. How? Imam Sajjad says, trust us, This is the philosophy of the month of Ramadan. One of its philosophies is this. What do we do during the day, those of us who can fast, they don't have an illness or We stop eating. We stop eating, we stop drinking. What are we showing ourselves? What is God trying to tell us? God is trying to tell us, insan, it's true. Now you are finding yourself in a world in which you're next to beautiful cats and cows and whatnot. Don't you ever think you're one of them? A cat, a dog, a cow, that's how they live. They go, they fight with each other over resources. A cat steals from this, a dog steals from that, and they live. If you give them a reward, they do something, God says, insan, you're living with them temporarily, but you're not one of them. You're different. Past in this month, remind yourself for a few hours, don't feed your body so that you remember you have something else. You're an insan. The way insan learns should be different to the way animals learn. And this is one of the main lessons of fasting for us. That, John, you're special. Please recite salawat. So, in the coming nights, we'll start talking about what is this other way that Imam Sajjad is talking about. If I don't want to learn through my actions, through the consequences of my actions, what is the way? Imam starts explaining. I'll just say briefly, we'll open it up in the coming nights. Imam says, Baby, in insan, you can get direct knowledge from God to your heart, and a kind of knowledge that changes you. Imam says, Ilahi, alhimni al-khair wal-amal bih. It's so profound, this line in the Abu Hamza Thumali. Imam says, God can do with you, and you can have a relationship with God if you follow these teachings. Baby, what are we doing in Imam Sajjad's Abu Hamza Thumali? We are shadowing a master of faith, Zainul Abidin. We want to see how is it that they live their life. Do they go making a mistake for 20 years till they learn? Or not? They enter into life with good akhlaq. What is the way Imam Sajjad says you have to find a connection with God, that God instills the right action to your heart, to your mind, and then gives you the courage to act upon it. Alhimni al-khair means send the idea for doing good to my mind. Have you noticed it, Messiah? A lot of the times we don't even think about calling a relative that we haven't talked about in the years. How do we remember? This is again one of the ways of learning through uquba. The amount of times I've heard this. We lose someone, a loved one, a father, a grandfather, an aunt, and then we're like, it's been a year, I wanted to go visit him, I didn't. Why? It never occurred to us. How did we finally learn this lesson? We had to wait for the poor person to pass away, and then we're like, damn it, I should have called him more. Allah Imam Sajjad says, this is not the only way. There's another way. God sends the right idea to your mind. Alhimni al-khair. God does ilham to you. And is it just that the idea comes? No. Wal-amal bih. And then God gives you the strength to go and act according to that good thing. Imam says, this is the insani way to grow. This is the way we want our followers to grow. You have heard in that surah of the Quran, it says there's 3 groups of people. There's one group, poor things, they're lost. Then there's another group which they're trying to be good people. And then there's a third group, as-sabiqun, as-sabiqun. While a group are lost and another group are trying to become good, there's this group that are sabiqun. They're taking everyone over. They're going so quickly towards God and becoming a right person. Imam Sajjad says, if you want to become a person like that, you have to let go of that way of learning through life. You have to get direct information from God. Alhimni al-khair wal-amala bih. And inshallah, in the next few nights, we'll open this up. How can we learn like this, the insani way? And it makes life so much easier because you learn the lesson so easily. You don't need to go face the wall to realize I have to go the other way. May God, inshallah, enable us to really pick up this lesson, by the way. This is, one of the best gifts the Ahl Bayt have given us is this. Yani, if we have the Ahl Bayt and don't live in this way, honestly, it's a massive loss. It's like someone giving you the best, fastest way to grow, and may we, inshallah, benefit from it. And may, inshallah, God send some light from these holy nights to the soul of all of our loved ones who've passed away. May God, inshallah, give courage and strength to anyone who's going through difficulty right now, Allah, whether they're here or any corner of the world. And let's end with the salawat.